Society is collapsing while men are relaxing.
Married. I don't want to get married.
Why?
There's no benefit for the man. He only has everything to lose.
What?
A man can be completely faithful to his wife, provide, protect, take care of the kids, you know, obviously when he's not working, whatever. And the wife can step out and cheat. And what's the results of that? Man has to pay alimony, has to pay child support, loses his house, loses the cars, loses everything. Why? What's the point? And then, like, it's a coin flip. Flip a coin if your marriage is going to work. Those are the odds. Those are the chances. If you want to get married, cool. Throw a wedding, put the rings on each other, say your vows, you're married. You don't have to submit nothing with the courts.
Yeah. Die alone?
The only reason why somebody is not okay being alone is because they're not okay with themselves.
Exactly. I agree.
That's it. Like, if you're not okay being alone, you have issues with yourself that you need to take care of.
There seems to be a collective awakening among men right now where they realize that the big issue is themselves and their inability to be alone. Men who have learned how to be alone, mastered it, accepted it, and have moved on are finding so much joy in being alone. Society is collapsing while men are relaxing because more men are waking up and realizing it's better to be alone than to feel alone and to put up with nonsense endlessly for decades. Watch to the end of the video to fully understand why men are relaxing as society is collapsing and the implications this is going to have on the livelihoods of women as more men continue to walk away and say we are done with this nonsense. And now let's just go ahead and jump right into the first video.
I get asked on probably a daily, weekly basis what a femcel is, and I never know how to answer. So I made an entire like 30-something minute video on it. But if you don't want to sit through 30 minutes of me, which I can understand, here's the short answer. It means basically one or two things. One, a female incel, which is an involuntarily celibate, which is a woman who can't get into a relationship. Or basically, this is on Urban Dictionary. This is a long definition. Basically, just a very chronically online girl that like really likes certain kind of anime and kind of hates men, but they don't really hate men. We don't hate men. We love men, but they annoy us sometimes.
Yeah. So, guys, I mean, if you look at what this girl looks like, if you look at what she looks like, she is actually a fairly attractive girl, all right? So, basically, a femcel is not so much involuntary celibate as that she cannot get into a relationship, but she does not want to be in a relationship with a man. She is actually rejecting relationships with men, and she has a lot of HATE for men, although she doesn't want to take ownership of that. So she resents us. She does not like us. She admittedly says that she hates us, but at the same time, if society is like, oh, so you guys actually hate men, we hate them, but we don't hate them. So in other words, we hate them, but don't blame us for hating them. You know, so it's okay. So it's not good when men hate women, but it's okay when women hate men because they're not serious. Do you see? In other words, it's absolving them of any consequences whatsoever. You have other women who are like, listen, do not speak to us, do not approach us, do not look at us, do not come in our direction, or we will blow our whistle on you. But then they turn around and say, hey, well, so guys, since you guys can't approach us now, how do we approach you? Like, for example, if we see one of you that we think is cute and we want you, then how do we approach you if you're no longer allowed to approach us? And they can't seem to comprehend, why would a man want an unapproachable woman to approach him? If she's not a person that the average man can approach, why would she want him to approach her? Because if this is how if you treat the guy in the wheelchair, if there's a guy in a wheelchair and he cannot approach you, or a guy who's overweight and he cannot approach you, and you cannot politely tell him that you're not interested, or in fact, make him feel good, tell him you're not interested, but make him feel good about the interaction and give him some support. If you're not that type of person, why would the average man want you to approach him? Because all men, we're all human beings on the inside as men. The same guy that is very buff and it's handsome and charismatic and high value. A good example is Henry Cavill. Women are constantly mocking Henry Cavill, making fun of him, shaming him now. The reason why? Because he's not out in the streets. You know, there was I don't know if it was like TJ Henderson or whatever the hell her name is. All right. One of those Hollywood actresses, she was shaming him, saying that, he's the type of guy that would feel more happy discussing Star Wars or talking about anime or video games. And she was shaming him for it. She was 100% shaming him because he's not in the streets. You see, I've told you plenty of times, Chad and Tyrone are the same guy. And y'all are like, that doesn't make any sense, Angry. What does Chad look like? He's usually like this, fit, handsome guy. What does Chad look like? A handsome, basically, he's not always handsome, but he's usually, a lot of times he's fit, he's a thug, he's a Pookie, a Ray Ray. He falls into a certain look, all right? Maybe a gangster. So what are they looking for? They're the same guy. Both of them are a true Chad is a brokey. A true Chad is typically a brokey. Not always, but most of the time, a true Chad is a brokey. A true Tyrone, most of the time, is a brokey. All right? They're usually broke boys. They have nothing to lose and everything to gain. They're often extremely lazy. And they're often men that other men don't want to be around. Like true Chads and Tyrones, men don't want to be around these guys. The typical man would not even glance in their direction once. These men are often put out. They're not allowed to come into a business meeting. They won't get hired for jobs. These are brokies. They live off women. They live off society for decades. And then when they run out of time, they get old now after years of being strung out. They end up on the street and they're out there acting like society doesn't care about them. And little do you know, they were out there destroying the lives of men, running around, cheating, doing all of this crap, living off society, living off women, living off other men, women stealing men from one man to go and spend it on these broke boys, and they know exactly what's going on. They're not stupid. And then, their years of, their decades of living like takers and deceivers and users, it finally catches up to them. And now they're strung out and homeless, and they want to turn around and look to men to help them and rescue them. Get the living hell out of here. Get the living hell out of here. They are the reason why so many men are done. They're the reason why men are chilling right now. So many men have walked away after 2020, have completely dropped out of the workforce, and you have some empowered women thinking that they're going to go and take the jobs that these men have left behind. When the reality is that men pay 80% of all taxes in the economy, while women make 80% of all consumer purchases, and they think that now that the men are dropping out, they'll go and take the positions of power. But what they don't comprehend is not only are the high value men dropping out, but also the men who hold down the infrastructure, the men that keep everything afloat, the men that produce, the old farmers, the old white farmers that they don't like. All right. Guess what? We are going to start starving. All right. We are beginning to starve because a lot of those old white farmers are retiring right now. And you know what that creates? That creates a necessity. So, for example, the amount of stock that you have goes down. So now the cost of food goes up even higher. So in record high inflation, as more of those old white farmers retire, we're going to pay higher prices at the grocery store. All right, because women are not taking these jobs. They're not replacing the farmers. They're not replacing the old white guys fixing the infrastructure on the highways in the dead of winter. They're not replacing the white guys on the oil rigs. I'm just being very honest with you. All of these white guys that have walked away, they're not coming back. And women aren't replacing them. So they're like, oh, power, power, power. And then they wonder why the power suddenly goes out. And they're like, men, why aren't you doing your jobs? Oh, because men also hold down the power grid. They're responsible for, don't you understand where power comes from? Power doesn't come just from an electric plant. Power often goes to the electric plant as a result of being generated. How is power generated? Well, there are a variety of different ways. There's nuclear energy. There's hydroelectricity. That's one of the biggest generations of power. There's wind power. There's power generated from wind. Oh, wait. You ladies didn't know this? And the people who maintain those things, those are all men. They're not building any new ones because it costs too much. Because there's not enough men willing to do the work. What are you talking about? And the hydroelectricity, yeah, they're not maintaining that. They're not working there anymore. So the output has gone down. What do you mean? But you guys are strong and empowered, so you can go and take these jobs. And then sanitation, sanitation is, sewage is beginning to pile up and come up back through the toilet. Oh yeah, because the sanitation plants, the chemical plants that chemical engineering, those guys are done. They're like, yeah, we don't want to really study calculus and all that other stuff, so we're just going to stay at home and play video games and do DoorDash, when we need money. Wait, what are you talking about? Wait, you didn't know that a chemical engineer had, those guys that work at those sanitation plants, a lot of those guys are mathematicians? You didn't know that? We need a variety of skill sets just to clean, just to break down poopy water into drinking water again. So, you didn't. I'm sorry. Well, listen, you're strong and empowered, all right? So you can go and collect those jobs. I mean, those guys make pretty decent money. Some of those guys make $100,000 a year. They've walked away from those jobs, ladies. You can go and have them now. Guys, why are you trying to get revenge? Why are you trying to get revenge? What you're doing here, it's not about getting revenge. It's not about expecting others to do more for you. It's, this is revenge. This is revenge. That's really what they're at right now. That's what these women are basically at right now. Because society is beginning to collapse around us, and now they're beginning to realize that men aren't coming to the rescue. Men are not coming back. Men are done. The future for a lot of women is destitution, poverty, homelessness, living in shelters, living on the street, living in their cars, living even in the woods, because men are no longer going to pay the taxes that they even need to provide these public assistance programs. Okay? The government cannot even pay the interest on its debt right now. And as the inflation gets worse, here's the thing. The U.S. government believes that as inflation would increase, it would naturally result in people earning more money, so that would reduce the value of the debt, but it would also increase the monetary supply. And as a result of increasing the monetary supply, the amount of money that people earn, that means that they would end up paying more money into in taxes. And by paying more money into taxes, the government would then be able to pay its debt. That's not happening. Employers are not paying more. People are making less today than they were making before the events of 2020, even though food costs 3 to 4 times more than it did 4 years ago. And men are walking away, living below their means, doing day trading, working just enough to survive and thrive and no more. They're doing jobs just enough. They're doing jobs where they basically work on their own pace, at their own schedule, at their own luxury, because they don't have a wife and kids to worry about, and they have no interest in ever having one, ever having any of these things, and they're not going to sacrifice themselves for women or the country. I've already said this before, that if a man does not have love for family or country, he will fight for neither. And sending simps out there to shame men back to the plantation is not going to work. It's only going to tell men to run away faster. When you have women making videos like they want men under 24-hour surveillance and there should be no male-dominated spaces, and men should be monitored even when they're playing video games online. Why do you think men are vanishing from society? Oh, where are all the men? Why? When I go shopping for groceries, there's no men at the grocery stores. When do you go shopping? Guys, they're making these videos for attention. And also, it's kind of like I don't know why men are disappearing. I had nothing to do with it. Is it because of money? Are you afraid of talking to girls? Like, this is how they operate, all right? They destroy society, and then they act like they have no idea why society is collapsing. They told men to leave us alone. Men have listened to them, and they've walked away. They told men, we don't want you in the workforce. Men are walking away and leaving these jobs to women, all right? And now women are like, why aren't men working anymore? Men have done exactly what women have told them to do, and now they're furious at men because men have done exactly what they're furious to do. And then you have simp pastors who are telling men, don't try to understand women. Do not try to understand them. Because, guys, it's very easy to understand women. You have Uncle Angry. Uncle Angry has suffered something. Let me tell you something. I suffered so much in my life in the last 4 years. I suffered more in the last 4 years than I've ever suffered in my entire life. I don't think I could wish this kind of suffering on my worst enemy. You know, I asked God once. I asked God about 5 or 6 years ago for money. All right, I asked for a certain amount of money, and He gave it to me within a relatively short period of time. And I lost all of it because I did not know how to properly manage it. And then I asked God for wisdom. And He allowed me to suffer for 4 years. I mean, really suffer horribly. And what I came to realize is that to gain that knowledge, to gain that wisdom that I asked for, I had to pass through a lot of suffering. To gain the knowledge, and then to become to gain the knowledge that I wanted, and ultimately the wisdom that I wanted. I said, God, I want tons of wisdom. I'm greedy for wisdom. I want it all. I want it just like I wanted money. I want wisdom. I want all of it. Give me all of it. Be careful what you ask God for, y'all. Because I realize now that to ask God for wisdom, I would have to be able to understand the wisdom. I'd have to be able to, first I need knowledge. You need knowledge, and you need knowledge so that you can comprehend wisdom. It's just crazy. Because you have to understand where knowledge comes from so that you can then understand how to acquire wisdom. Knowledge, all right, are basically smart men. This is how men gain knowledge. Smart men learn from their own mistakes, all right? They learn from their own mistakes. They learn from their own experiences. That's how smart men gain knowledge, all right? But how do you gain wisdom? True wisdom. You gain that by learning from the mistakes of others and the experiences of others. But to get to that point, to even understand this and to know that this is how it works, I had to suffer. To become receptive to knowledge, to the wisdom of others, I had to suffer. I had to gain a lot of knowledge and wisdom on my own so that I can then gain true knowledge, which is learning from others, the mistakes and the experiences of others, the mistakes and the experiences of other men. And by doing that, I can then begin to figure out things entirely on my own and say, wait a minute, now I understand why women do this, why women operate like this. Be very careful what you ask for. This is the reason why sometimes you'll have men, lots of people in general, who win the lottery and then they end up losing it and end up passing away under crazy circumstances. You know, they win the lottery and then they go completely bankrupt. And then people are like, oh, this guy is a fool. But what you don't understand is they didn't understand how to manage money. They didn't understand what money attracts. They didn't understand that money attracts the wrong kinds of people. It's a process. Life is a process. Getting wealthy is a process. You know, Warren Buffett, like him, love him or hate him, he said something very important. He said that people don't want to get rich the way he got rich, which is slow. Anyone can get rich, but they have to have pay. But most people don't want to go down the route he went down, which is getting rich slowly. For many of us, we were told to go to college, get these degrees, and they would make you rich. You would become middle class, and you can go and enjoy caviar and the good stuff in life. The reality is, fast forward 20 years, now everyone has to have a college degree where they once had high school diplomas. And even that's not good enough anymore. Now you need to have you need to have more than a college degree. You need to have experience working with AI and years of experience, and all kinds of other stuff. And you need to have guys, it's no longer enough. So the easy life will give you a hard life, and a hard life will often lead you to an easier life. They told us if you didn't go to college, you'd have a hard life. Oh, you want to go be a postman? You're going to have a hard life. All those postmen that started off being postmen 20 years ago, they all now own multiple properties. They have multiple properties. They drive Teslas. They have tons of passive income coming in from their rental properties. The time that they weren't wasting in college, they learned about stocks and bonds, and they began investing. And they have all of this knowledge that they've gained over the last 20 years, self-taught from experience. And those are the guys with the money. They had incredible health insurance, all of this. This is one of the reasons why men have just said, you know what, enough is enough. We're not going to give our lives anymore. We're not going to let simps shame us anymore. Women cannot shame us back to the plantation. We are done. We're going to focus on ourselves, focus on our own happiness. We're going to survive. We're going to thrive. And then we're going to make just enough money to take care of ourselves and to do well on our own. And that's it. And as a result, you're going to find a lot of women in destitution, poverty, shelters, homeless, living in their cars, living in the streets, or living in the woods, because the government can no longer subsidize their living. And unless they themselves can pick themselves up, pull themselves up by their bootstraps and work for the rest of their lives as our economy gets worse and worse, then they're not going to be able to do well. They're going to be suffering. There's going to be a lot of suffering and a lot of poverty. And I do not celebrate that, but that's just a reality. Because if they cannot provide for themselves, they can, and they expect the state to provide for them, and then they discover the state cannot do it. Men are not just going to come out there and say, oh, we are brothers, we are sisters, let us help you. It doesn't work like that. They told us to go away, and men are doing exactly what they asked them to do. By the way, if you guys are enjoying the content on the channel, subscribe to our newsletter for my personal thoughts, insights, and a free copy of my ebook, The Blueprint for Escaping the Rat Race. Click the link in the description to get your free copy. What do you guys think regarding all of this? Society is collapsing while men are relaxing. Let me know your thoughts, and we'll talk about it in the comments. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA. Men walking away, and cheers.